cameras are good. Okay, let's get started. Welcome everybody. This is the regular meeting of the Woodbridge Conservation Commission. Today is July 20th, 2017. And we're going to start our meeting first with public comments, and then we'll do the other agenda items.
As first selectman, I guess I'm a member of the public.
You are a member of the public.
So, yeah, anyway. I've been trying to get to as many boards and commission meetings as I can in the next few months to introduce myself, and thank you all for doing what you do. Public service is sometimes not rewarded, so thank you, and I hope we can always maintain good lines of communication. Everyone has my home phone and my cell, and if you don't, Jason will give it out, and not on camera, but keep Jason in the loop always if you have anything that we just want to make sure that the public is feeling like we're doing our due diligence. We're doing our work, and I'm glad we're taping many more meetings. My goal is to get as many meetings as possible on tape and minutes up quickly. And that's a nice segue into what will try to read, because I've been trying to remind every commission that agency minutes and record of the votes must be available to the public. We have this little document. We're going to you'll get a copy of it at some point. You might have gotten it already. Stephanie's pretty good about sending these things out regarding the Freedom of Information Act. And the minutes of each agency meeting must be made available to the public within 7 days. And the votes of each member on any issue must be put in writing and made available to the public within 48 hours. So it has to go to the town clerk. This is business days now. And there's many more things you can read. And I will invite you, as I've invited all other commissions, September 12th, Stephanie was able to put together another session of public information. His name is Tom Hennick. I think he's the public information officer up at Freedom of Information. He's going to give a workshop to anyone and everyone. And members of the public can come as well. It doesn't necessarily have to just be boards and commissions. And he goes over, it's always interesting because he always has the most interesting stories about things that are challenged regarding freedom of information and the Act. So if you guys have any questions for me, I met with Jason yesterday. He went over some of the goals of the Conservation Commission, which I'm very excited about. And thank you for doing that as well. Mm-hmm. And anybody have any questions for me? I'm meeting with Julie tomorrow, so good.
No, but thank you for joining our meeting.
Oh, I'll come when I can.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Every once in a while I have to go home, but
Every once in a while.
Yep, I'd like to do that. But thank you for having me. Thanks very much. Looking forward to a good, productive Conservation Commission. Love it. Thank you.
We do our best.
I know you will. I'm very excited. Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Beth. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks for all you do also, Beth. I know
Thank
it can't
you.
be
No, but you
easy
guys too.
with all,
I love my job. It's almost 3 weeks, and I love it. I'm having.
We got to get you on the website.
Yeah, there is a video. Welcome to Woodbridge with me talking.
Oh, good.
Get on the website and look. Our website is fantastic. But it needs some tweaking, but we're doing very well. So, stay tuned, Woodbridge.
That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You'll have to join us on another hike one day.
I will.
Right.
I will. I've done one or two. The country club kind of killed me. So. I
was-
only
that
went
was-
around
that was
once.
big.
It was long. It was
And
long.
it was the problem was the cold.
And it was.
I have not yet warmed up.
Oh,
So-
yeah,
Not even today.
It was
freezing
really
day.
cold. I've
Yeah.
been in this building
I know,
all day,
cold.
so.
Well, step outside,
Oh,
you'll
it's
warm up
nice
right
out.
away.
I know.
Yes.
So thank you. Sorry for taking up more time,
No,
but
no,
thank
It's
you.
all right. No other members of the public? So I'm going to take a sideways step here on the agenda. Our next agenda item is to review and approve the minutes, but because we have a new member here at the table tonight, I thought it would be worthwhile before we proceed into the meat of the agenda to actually just do a quick round of introductions so everybody knows each other. I'll start. Jason Morrill, Chair of the Commission at the moment. Been in town since 2005, where I got involved with the Historical Society and the Clean Energy Task Force, and then roped into Massaro being the initial president of the board when Massaro was getting up and running. And love the trails in town, do cleanup days where I can. No longer on the board with Massaro, but instead I spend time with this commission. So that's my brief story. Well, why don't we go around this way?
I'm Lauren Miller. I forgot what I'm supposed to say next. you know I'm horrible at this kind of thing. I am on this commission. I am on Beecher PTO. I moved to Woodbridge in 2006, and I'm a busy volunteer. I'm not good at this. This is when I need someone with my brain outside of my body to tell me what I do.
To tell you what you do?
Yeah.
Well, that was
Thanks.
I think your list is a little longer than
Thanks.
you
Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah.
Yes. Thanks.
Leland Torrance, new member here. I made a goal 5 years ago to walk every trail in Woodbridge, which I have completed. I love I hail as a youth from Vermont, so I love the countryside, I love the open space. I have about 4 acres of wetland, which is a natural preserve, which we hire a conservator to help me get it back to sort of original state. My business is Leland Torrance Enterprises, Conservation, Restoration, and Management. I'm a co-founder of the New Haven Land Trust back in the early 90s. And just in general, you know, in a small way, hope I can be a part of helping you guys do what you do.
Together we will do great stuff.
Excellent.
Thanks.
Oh, I should just also say I'm a resident for 22 years here and live with my wife Laura, my 2 boys, and our 28 animals.
28, really?
I hope they're not all dogs or all cats. I hope
No, there's
Did you mention what other committee you're on?
What committee am I?
Animal.
Oh, and I'm on the animal shelter
Okay.
committee.
That kind of goes along with the 28 animals.
Right,
He was the
right. I was
guy.
forced into that by my wife.
Yeah.
I'm Frank DeLeo. I'm pretty much a lifelong citizen of Woodbridge. I've been here most of my life, except for some time in the service. I enjoy the trails in town. I also work with the West River Restoration Committee, also with the West River Watershed Coalition. It's a group that's trying to improve the West River, and we've been doing cleanouts. We've been doing different things with different groups. It's a very diverse group of all the different folks from Bethany, Woodbridge, West Haven, New Haven. So we get quite a few people there. And I enjoy the trail walks that we do here and the work we're doing to help with conservation in town.
I'm Julie Perlman. I was born here, left for about 20 years, and came back. So I've been here for most of my life, and I was interested in the Conservation Commission because I grew up here, and I'm interested in conservation and making sure that there's a lot of open space here. And you know, I love Woodbridge. I'm not able to participate as much as I want to on the trail walks and everything because my kids' schedules, but I enjoy, you know, being outdoors and being around here a lot. So that's me.
Julie and I made a pact to do every trail. When
Yes.
did we make that pact? Last year?
Yeah, but I did one.
I think I think I've maybe done 3.
Well,
So
you're
we have
better.
a long way to catch up.
Yeah, this summer.
Well, one
Uh-huh.
year you'll get down in
1
12,
year we're gonna
15?
say, we did them all.
If
count the really
baseball
short
wasn't
ones,
all
too.
year round, I
Everything's
think
so
I might have
exciting.
a week off in August.
Okay.
1 week that we
We're
could
gonna
do
get to
one.
it.
And our other 2 members, Tracy and Karen, we'll have them do some introductions next time as well.
Thank you.
All right. So now that we know each other, on to official business. So to review and approve the minutes of the May 18th regular meeting. And I circulated them around to everybody. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second it.
Is there any discussion or changes to the minutes? All right, there being none. All in favor of the May minutes? Aye. Opposed? Abstained?
Abstain.
Abstained. Okay. We did not have a June meeting. We didn't have a quorum. at that meeting, so there are no minutes to approve from that meeting. Periodically, what I like to do with this commission is actually go through and review state and town statutes and charter, just to make sure we all understand why we're here and what our role is in town. I had circulated those in the email to everybody. In general, the Conservation Commission is in an advisory fashion to the town. The Board of Selectmen make proposals, they ask us for advice and input on various matters. I've only been on the commission for 4 years, so I don't have a long history here, but it's worked that way fairly well. My personal feeling is that I prefer not to have this commission turn into an advocacy group, so not pamphleting neighborhoods in favor or not in favor of certain aspects. I think there's other organizations in town that do that very well, the Land Trust, the Parks Association, and other ad hoc neighborhoods groups that come up, I think. I welcome their input on all matters, but our goal is to look at what's best for the whole town, and not go and beat the drum down the streets. There's certain aspects to that can become very contentious and divisive, and I try not to make this commission contentious and divisive. Did everyone have a chance to go through and review the ordinances and state statutes? Just to refresh our memories.
Is there a test?
Is there a test? That's right. It's multiple choice though, so it's super easy to pass. Yeah, the town ordinance, the town charter rather, is very brief in how it explains it. It differs mostly to what the state statutes are for what a conservation commission is and what it can do. But just wanted to briefly touch upon that. We don't need to read through them all. If we're in doubt, we can read upon them ourselves. Next item on the agenda is the election of commission officers. This is a formality, but I was trying to figure out if there's actually anything in the town charter or state statutes that there must be officers. I like to have officers just so we have clarity of who's regular taking minutes and who's going to be chair. I know there's chairs of commissions, but regardless, whether there's an actual something written down or not.
I don't know, I can ask for you and find out, but.
I'm okay with going with the flow on this one.
Okay.
Currently, I'm chair. Lauren is vice chair, and Tom Kennefic, who was on this commission, was flagged as secretary. I'm happy to remain as chair of the commission, and because Lauren likes to take minutes, I'll nominate her as secretary.
Thanks. I've been taking minutes anytime Betsy isn't here. I have been secretary.
Yes,
Yes.
de facto.
And I've also been vice chair.
I know.
I am most things. And I'm liaison to the QPOP thing. Commission. Wonderful committee.
That's right.
So,
Thank you for reminding me of that. Too.
yes, I forgot that. See, I'm not, I remember things in very odd. Okay.
So the role of vice chair is simply to stand in my stead. If I'm unable to make the meeting, the vice chair would.
That's
run the
right.
meeting.
I did that, and we had public comments, and you said that we weren't going to. I remember all this now. It's all coming back.
It's all coming back.
Yes.
Hopefully in not horrific,
No, it's
traumatizing fashion.
good to remember things. Okay.
Is there a volunteer to be vice chair? It's super easy because I'm here, I would say 99%
You only, I
of the
think
time.
it only happened once.
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't think I should volunteer for officers until I get a little better
I
idea
did
what's
it
going
my
on.
first day.
You did? Really?
Uh-huh.
Did you?
Yes, it was the first meeting.
Wow.
It's on tape.
Frank.
Frank?
I'll volunteer.
Frank's
Alright.
gonna do it.
All right. So
So we have to do
So
the
here's the-
motion and all that. I'll
So
do
I
it.
will-
Do you need a formal nomination? Because if you do, I'd like to nominate you, Jason, for.
Yeah, I was just saying,
chair-
gonna say that
for
too.
chair,
Right. I would also nominate you.
if necessary.
okay.
I'll second.
You'll second that part. Well, how about this? I'm going to propose a slate of myself as chair, Frank as vice chair, and Lauren as secretary. And that's my motion
Do you want to be
for election
secretary?
of officers.
Oh, no, no.
Okay. I don't want to take it from anyone who wants it.
I know it.
Okay.
I'm good at that. That's one thing.
Treasurer.
Treasurer.
No, I'm bad for PTO.
That would be
I don't
a
wanna do
super easy job in this one. All right.
Okay,
So
so motion made to, yeah. Okay.
to propose the slate is myself as chair, Frank as
Yes,
vice,
this is
and
fine
you as
for me.
Okay.
secretary.
It is.
Is there
I should second.
Yes, you can second.
That would be my first act, I'll say.
Okay, good,
Excellent.
well done.
Is there any discussion on this? Carry forward, Mayor. All in favor? Aye.
It's done.
Thank you, yeah, did you notice I did it wrong?
No, I didn't.
I was gonna look it up before I submit it within my 7 days of getting it on.
48 hours.
That said 7 days. 7
Mo-
days and then 48 hours to get it to the.
If there's motions.
There's so much pressure.
Well,
Okay.
48 business days or
Okay.
hours. So
Fine.
Monday.
It'll be great. I'm doing it right now.
You got the weekend. Okay. Next item agenda. Another good light one here. Update on the 2017 trail walks. So just to fill in Leland, we make it a goal to do at least 7 trail walks across the whole year, with one commission member taking a month. And your choice what trail you want to host. It's nothing formal, but if you'd like to bring in guides or something educational about it, that's fantastic. We have refreshments from time to time on the walks, but it's very easy, simple, and I think
And
we
fun.
And fun. And Lauren does a great job getting people out.
And advertising, what an advertising, right? She does a
So
great job advertising.
we've done pretty well on hitting 7 of the 12 months for the last few years. Obviously, the winter we usually take off because it's a bit too cold, and August is also a tough one to hit because it's just too hot and sticky and buggy, very buggy,
People are away.
and people are away. But our most recent trail walk was just last weekend.
Mm-hmm.
It was on a trail I had never been on. We actually started on Water Authority property up on Sperry Road, not far from the house up on Sperry Road. What was the reservoir name? There was a...
It was Lake Chamberlain, and we
Yes.
walked up to Lake Chamberlain. The first thing we did, and we viewed that, and then we took the trail that goes down along the river there,
Yep.
the Sargent River, to the falls. It was great. We had great speakers. We had
It was great.
Yeah, we had-
With Sheila McCraven.
Sheila, yeah,
And,
We had Ron from the
and
water.
Ron from the
And
water
Ron,
company.
and he
So
was,
we had. It was very interesting because
Yeah.
we had the history of the area at Sperry Falls.
Yep.
And Sheila is a descendant, a direct descendant of one of the original
Mhm.
settlers of Woodbridge, which
Oh.
was Richard Sperry. Yeah, I didn't know that until recently. Yeah, and she told some pretty good stories,
Mhm.
Yep.
including the hatchet murder.
yes,
Yes.
and then we had children on the walk. I asked her to,
Yeah,
yes.
so it was pretty interesting. It really was.
It was a fantastic turnout. I would say it had 20 to 25 people.
Yeah, there was,
You know,
there
I
was
have-
14 sign-ups, and if you count the kids, it was at least 20
Yeah,
people.
and
but,
I have
you know,
pictures
some people
from
didn't
that.
sign.
That I have not forwarded in a timely manner. To whom should I forward those?
Send them to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Betsy probably would put them in.
Well, Betsy's kind of busy.
Yes.
Oh, sure.
I think she's kind of busy. She's not here.
Well, she's super pregnant.
She's super pregnant.
Yeah.
No, I
So-
mean, is she like,
So cute.
is she now?
I don't believe.
I think not yet.
Soon.
She's working right up to the end. So the walk was well attended. It was a nice mix of education about the Water Authority and the reservoirs and that particular management and some history of the Water Authority. Layered on top of the Sperry family and the mill, the old.
Yeah, the Grice Mill. Yeah,
That's right,
There,
the-
there was
the
actually
old
one of the stones
stone
left from the Grice Mill, which is pretty
there.
interesting.
It's a neat spot. I'd never been to Sperry Falls or the park. It's a very short walk from the parking area down to the falls, but it's sort of secluded, neat. If you've
Yeah,
been in
some
town
folks in
forever, it
Woodbridge
was
have
the old
never been there.
hangout.
That's what's neat about it.
I think it's still a hangout.
I think it's
Oh, the youngsters.
Well, there,
know
it's
about it.
not,
The young
you know,
people
it's
know
too
about it.
bad, because there's
But,
graffiti that
you know,
needs
a lot
to
of
be,
the old
we,
people
can we
in
take care of
town
that?
don't know.
That, yeah, well, the Sperry Park Association would
Oh,
take care
okay.
of that, yeah.
They need to do that.
But they should take that down. So our next walk, I think, is in September, and I believe Karen was going to be hosting that one. Did I make a note here? Yes. So Karen was going to do the Northern Trail up in Bladen's Brook. It's that part in the northern part of town with the wooden walkways through the swamp.
Off Seymour Road.
Yep.
It's actually one of my favorites.
Wait, tell
It's
me
very
again.
cool.
What's the name of it again?
Bladen's Brook.
Oh, right.
And it connects to the Round Hill trails that we had walked last November, I think.
Is that
Last
where
fall.
Enoch Drive is?
Yeah. Round Hill connects over to Enoch Drive. Yeah. So Karen will do the September walk. I've got myself tapped to do a walk on Massaro Farm in October. And right now, November and December are open. If anybody would like to.
Do you have a list of the walks you've done in consecutive order, so the dates?
Oh, we should.
We should. I've got.
We could read through the minutes and learn them, unless you know them better.
No.
I'd
I'd have to go back through the minutes.
I'd
I
have to
was
also
keeping
do that.
very good track. I had a list. I'm just looking at my computer at these old files that I've got here.
It'd just be fun to not recycle too much. We're really
Yeah.
getting
Yeah.
it everywhere.
We've somehow
Pat-
not recycled yet.
No.
I'm sorry I missed the Sperry one. That was
No,
great.
we've done all
It was
the
cool.
ones.
It was very cool.
Well, now you're gonna get on the email list. Watch out.
Some of the prior, some of the prior ones this year. We did one on the Country Club. I think it was February.
It was
Yeah.
cold with the goose.
It was,
We did two,
or maybe
actually.
it was March. That's right. There was the second one was sort
Second
of
one on the country
flat.
club also, yeah.
But the first one was in the winter. It was an opportunity for the community to come out and walk on the Country Club now that golf was gone. And that was well attended. We've done walks over by the Darling House on the West River Trail over there.
Fitzgerald property, Tom did Fitzgerald property.
That's right. I wasn't at
Tom,
that one yet.
Tom did one, Tom Kenford did Fitzgerald property, we did Elderslie.
Yes.
Did Elderslie.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's an interesting one because of the connection to the three judges and that kind of thing. A lot of history there. So,
One that we
we've
haven't
done quite a few. Alice Newton, we did.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
right over here.
Alice Newton right here. So we did quite a few of the trails. No repeats so far, I don't think, except for the country club.
Right.
That was
And that one down near Walgreens, what was that one?
Oh, that was with the,
Oh, that was different.
that was
Right.
with
That was
right,
different.
with the West River Watershed Coalition.
got me.
But it was a cool walk, but it wasn't really a conservation walk.
One that we haven't hit is the Park Lane trails over on that side of town. And personally, I like those. They actually connect to Fitzgerald. You can leave Fitzgerald,
The old Indian,
walk through
the old Indian
Racebrook.
trails.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, yeah, we have to do that one.
yeah, and walk through there. And we have had walks on Racebrook Tract because there is that one trailhead at the end of. I can't remember the name of the road. It's Dead End Road, very close to the town line off Johnson.
Yeah.
But we usually join forces with the Orange Conservation Commission sometimes and do a joint walk through the Racebrook Tract since it kind of splits between Woodbridge and Orange. So in the past, it's been the first weekend of the month. Try to stick with that. It's worked out well. We've also found Saturdays are better attendance than Sundays. Is there any interest in doing a November or December walk from folks?
I'll probably do November.
Okay. All right. I will pencil you in, Frank, and you can think
I'm
about
not
where.
sure where, but we'll do November.
See, now as long as I save it on the computer, I won't lose track. And the
Mhm.
next time someone asks, where have you walked previously?
I
say,
could make a list of
I got it right
everything.
here.
I bet Betsy could make a great list.
All right. So our next walk won't happen until September, and Karen will lead that one in Bladen's Brook. I do intend to have an August meeting, so we'll have an opportunity to discuss any other changes in trail walks again. All right. Now onto the meat of the discussion tonight is the draft property rating system. So, Leland, to give you some background on this, in our open space plan, we have several objectives, and one of them is to develop a objective rating system so that we can look at properties of interest and go through them and rate them on various objective measures. Some of the easy ones are parcel size, whether there's buildings on the property and whatnot. And to use this rating system, after you rate all of the properties of interest, then you can figure out which ones are of greatest importance or interest and those of lesser importance.
And do you have the matrix set up?
We've got a draft matrix right now, and it's a combination of different rating systems that we looked at. So we looked at the state of Delaware has a rating system that, from an engineering point of view, I love. It's very objective, it's very numerical, it's very easy, and I love it. But it's also overly much for what we need. I think they've got 40 different points at least, and so we liked it, but it was too much. We looked at Bristol, Rhode Island, we looked at Stonington, Connecticut, and I also think we looked at maybe Old Saybrook. And looking at their rating systems, and created sort of this mashup of what we liked from each one. So what we settled on is, let me bring it up on my computer here.
I can show you, but I also have to take minutes, so it's tricky. Can I keep this? Yes.
So we had a total of 20 criteria that we had come up with. Primary, secondary, and tertiary criteria. And is that the, this one should be looking at. Switch over to that sheet right down here.
This one?
No, yeah. So that's the overview of it. And we're grouping them so that the scores are weighted. So the primary criteria carry more weight than the secondary, and they more so than the tertiary. And this way it's very clear what's most important and what's least important when looking at properties. And each one of these criteria have a more thorough definition, so you understand how they end up in these various point groupings. So on the spreadsheet, now if you go over to the All Criteria tab down there, here we get all the definitions.
Oh, good work.
And this is definitely a mix of what Delaware presented. A lot of the descriptions and definitions and how they're grouped out come from what Delaware had put forward.
I don't know. Did you send this?
I did, but I sent like 6 attachments to the email, so it's buried in there.
All right.
And I think we were very close to getting a draft. And once we've got a draft, we then thought, let's use it on properties that the town already has, because we have the most information about those properties already. For example, we could use it on Fitzgerald. The town's had it for a while. There's been multiple studies on it. So when you look at a criteria that talks about the plants or the animals that are on that parcel, we can reference the material that we've already got on hand, versus just arbitrarily picking a property in town and saying what plants are on that property. Well, then we need to go stomping around and
And
figure
how
that
did
out.
you get that data?
Well, the one for Fitzgerald is super easy because the Yale has done studies on it. I think there have been other separate studies done. The Land Trust probably has some information as well. But moving forward into the unknowns, the parcels that haven't been studied, that'll require a deeper delving into state resources, because the state will indicate territories of certain plants, territories of certain animals, and where they're likely to land. And do they land on that parcel if you look at a state map? The easy ones to figure out are percent forest cover, acreage, and whatnot. The one area we kind of stumbled on in trying to figure out what is it, is
Habitat of conservation.
the habitat of conservation concern. And it's still somewhat of a muddy topic. I've looked at things that the state has put out there. I've looked at some references from NOAA.
You came close with the habitat of particular concern.
Right.
So I mean that more or less refers to the fish aspect of it, the management and protection of a site that would be degraded if it weren't protected. More or less a vulnerability, especially for the fish, from what I understand what we have here.
Yeah, I did like that definition. So for those that are watching this video, not staring at computer screens or papers, the overview that we found here for habitat areas of particular concern, there's 4 bullet points here. The habitat provides important ecological functions. The habitat is sensitive to human-induced environmental degradation. Development activities are or will be stressing the habitat, and the habitat type is rare. So that's sort of 4 bigger picture.
And that was pretty much the gist of it.
And even in there, the concepts that they've thrown out are confusing to some, I'm sure. Like human-induced environmental degradation. That leads into its own set of definitions of what that might mean. But I think we can all have general consensus of what that means.
So there was a question about moving that from secondary criteria to primary criteria. It might be valid. I mean, it's pretty important. It also I think it refers to rare species or endangered species, and environment that would support the most of those, right? I mean, so I think that's kind of important. It might
Mm-hmm.
it might belong in
primary
criteria.
And Frank, did you think if we were to move it into primary, could we shift one of the primaries down to
Yeah,
secondary?
I think we could. Why? I didn't understand the on-site buildings. Why is that? I mean, not having on-site buildings is important.
Right. So the on-site building scoring is an interesting one because that actually.
Property with no buildings.
So property. Property with no buildings, property with one building, or property with more than one building. Its score goes down. The fewer buildings you have, the higher your score in this one.
All right. That's what I thought it was.
And with the intent that the town doesn't necessarily want to hold a property that's got buildings due to liability, maintenance costs, and, well, those are the 2 big ones that come to my mind. Unless those buildings have a particular use to the town. If they're just I can imagine, for example, ironically, a farm that's got a house and a barn and sheds. Would the town look at purchasing that property favorably or unfavorably, knowing that you've suddenly acquired buildings that
Yeah, maintenance to go with those
That have
buildings.
maintenance.
You have other kind of issues.
unless there's a targeted individual or group that would like to take over maintenance and upkeep of the buildings. So on-site buildings was a curious one. So your thought is maybe perhaps right now on-site buildings is in the primary, to move that down to secondary.
I think we might, yeah. I don't think it would be. I definitely think to have that of conservation concern. Tom brought that up, but I agree with that. I think it should go to the primary.
So what's the feeling of I don't have a
What is the
strong
rest of the group?
feeling one way or the other on this one. I'm okay with moving them around. What's the feeling here of, given the scope of Conservation Commission, and when we look at a parcel, is the existence of buildings more important than the existence of particular habitat? Or is the habitat more important than the existence of
Could I
buildings?
ask the question, in terms of evolution of a property
Mhm.
over time, and how do you weigh a time period that you think is important or a certain condition that's important? I mean, you know, I know in just watching my small area of wetlands and farmland, that, and with the help of a conservator, it's changed radically in 22 years.
Yeah.
And so if you take a 200-year period, 300-year period, 400-year period, how do you come to a decision of what conservation is? What are you actually conserving?
That's a very big question. In terms of scope, are we interested in keeping, for example,
Well,
a
if you rate it
wetlands-
at farmland, that it's, you know,
Right.
one of your ratings is you think that's important, or it's open or it's a flyway, or whatever the category is.
Mhm.
You know, once you sort of put it in the category, then you're kind of saying that's what we want to conserve, right?
Right.
So, but there are a number of habitats that I would argue that have been in a certain condition that maybe when you balance them with the other habitats you have around, that you want to let it go back to, say, for example, my wetlands used to have pole barns on it and were used to graze cattle and were hayed,
Mhm.
right? And now they've come back to wetlands, but in that process, obviously the invasive species have grown much faster than anything else. So my goal has been to try and balance out the invasive species to make it more like it was prior to when it was open field and pole barns.
Okay.
That's a very subjective choice.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's why I ask.
I'll give you my take on it. My take would be the property as it is today. And given some forward thought as to how it would evolve, and now keeping in mind that we're focusing mostly on the open space factor of it, and less on the human activity involved with it. Because I mean, if you go back in town, everything was fields and farming. That's why we've got stone walls everywhere. But I think getting too far into the past or too far into the future might make the evaluation process really hard.
Okay, so that's the answer. But basically, what we categorize it as is what we want to consider.
Yeah.
Okay.
What we've got today, or at least in a
And I'm sorry if
reasonable.
I'm ignorant of this, but
We're all
It's a
learning
good question.
as we move forward on this. As I research rating systems, it opened my eyes to aspects that I never even thought you'd look at for a piece of property. So, no reason to apologize. Yeah, I think looking at the contemporary use of the property, what it is now, and I can see the argument of, 50 years ago it was a beautiful farm, and now it's successional habitat with trees. Some people would love to wipe it out and put cows and fields back on it, but others would like to let it go back to forest. So
Well, we need more.
I think
of
that's
that.
well,
sort of-
I think how hard we worked to get our ladder on the West River, the fish ladder, and then we ripped it all out and ripped the dams all out, 20 years later.
yeah, it's all just sort of. And I fully expect that if we were to rate all the properties as a group in the next 5 years, if our successors came through in another 20 years, they might have a completely different take on it. So my goal through creating this is to be as clear as we can, but knowing that anytime somebody judges or rates anything, there's going to be subjectivity brought into it. So we do our best ourselves. Does that help?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So moving habitat of conservation concern to primary versus on-site buildings. Any thoughts?
Especially given our responsibility, I think that's a good idea.
You think it's appropriate to move habitat up? I tend to.
I'm in favor of moving it up.
I tend to agree as well.
I think it'd be okay. I mean, I think it's pretty important. It's fairly important. I think one of the early succession habitats really important in these criteria. And I think the habitat of conservation concern is really important in these criteria. I mean, the other ones are also important, but I think those are two of the most
I know,
important.
Well, which is somewhat consistent with, obviously, what the water company's doing with de-acquisitioning all of their properties, right? They've realized that from a liability and maintenance, it's not what their primary mission is, and so they've certainly made that decision.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. I'm okay with that, so why don't we shift that around? The other thing I wanted to be clear on is what the habitat of conservation concern is. And Frank, you agree with me that these
That definition-
bullets and paragraph, and,
Yeah, I
and this
think-
comes from the NOAA.gov website.
I think that's pretty close, as close as we're gonna get to it, as we get to it, yeah. It's pretty.
Yeah, a lot of the information that I had found when looking focused mostly around fish, of all things. But it certainly could be broadened out to wetlands. Wetlands are also a sensitive area, or even open fields, and the species that gravitate towards that, and rabbits, certain birds, turkeys. All right.
And I'm, again, sorry that I'm asking a stupid question, but how do you sort of balance out how, I know one of the criteria is a contiguous relationship to another conservation area.
Yep.
But in terms of, for instance, if you look at Route 63 and Route 69, you have cliff, flyway, river, farmland, wetland, forest, right? And so the balance of those in terms of having diversity of flora and fauna,
Yep.
is that something that you so you rate them together other than just contiguousness? Because they could be separated, a wetland could be separated by 3 or 4 properties from an open field, but it might be the relationship between the two is very critical.
Yes.
I think
I feel like-
that's part of the criteria too. If one is next to another, it's somewhere in that criteria.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And I was asking more if they're separated, but maybe they need balance, right?
Yep, absolutely. And I was looking because I feel like there was something in here about that point exactly.
Maybe each 1 to 5 sort of makes that more and less important. You
Right.
know what I mean? So, because each one, you're saying it's contiguous, but it's, right, you're rating it 1 to 5 on how it's contiguous, or
Right, there's
where-
different scales of continuity, and maybe it was this.
Yeah, good point.
One of them is the proximity to preserved lands.
Right.
But that doesn't speak quite to the point I think that you're expressing.
Well,
Actually, the
That's one of the
habitat of
parts
conservation concern is actually
that the word?
that's the one. That's the one that best fits what you're describing, because it talks about protecting a corridor connecting 2 habitats of conservation concern. So if you've got a good flyway next to wetlands and river, now you've got geese and duck possibilities, if that's an area of concern, right? That sort of.
I'm even thinking, and and corridors could be, in the air, doesn't
Yep.
really matter, right? But if it's a corridor on foot, it might not matter as much. And I sort of look at how a lot of the fauna has become urbanized, right? I
Yeah.
mean, with the density, they're acting very differently than they did 10 years ago, even. Whether it's fox or fish or cat or
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's
Well, our
daunting.
greenway is an
Wait,
example
that's
of what you're
because
saying.
of the-
It goes through different areas.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Where it runs through, if you go down, it comes down by the river, back of the Darling House, then it comes up by the hills up there, back of Shepherd's Farm. So, that's pretty much what you're
Yeah,
saying.
yeah.
So we have that, our greenway is a good example of that diversity
It is.
and the different aspects. But I think your open space parcel rating sheet is more defined for property that we're looking to acquire possibly, or
Ultimately, yeah,
Ultimately,
it'll help
yeah,
guide us
to-
in future acquisitions, or in rare cases, maybe divestitures of properties, which is highly controversial, but I'm going to put it out there anyway. I'm not in favor of getting rid of stuff once you've got it, but it's also a way to rate
I
that
think it's
as
more
well.
like specific to the particular property that we're looking for, and all those things come into play though. If it's next to another property, or next to a river, or next to another natural resource, which would be.
And are there any funds anymore?
There are funds. Our open space fund, I believe, stands somewhere around 70,000, roughly, right now in town. And then there's bonding that can get brought up as well. But it's not a lot. So we try to be frugal with what we're looking at purchasing. Just for a historical perspective, there is a property, 1875 Litchfield Turnpike. It's right, so if you're looking at the town, and the Darling House is up here, and Knoll's Pond and the Stop and Shop area is down here, just to give you top to bottom. It kind of fits right in the middle. And there's trails from the Darling House that come down, touch that property, and turn around. And there's state trails down here at the base of West Rock. And right in the middle is this parcel. And if we could acquire this parcel, we'd be able to continue our trail network.
And you can't get there because of the river.
Right.
Yeah.
There's one approved building lot on the parcel,
Yeah.
but it's jointly owned and the family can't agree. And we've tried for the last few years. It's actually
Have we done the path lately? Because it actually, people do go right through.
People do,
Yeah.
and there's yellow blazes on the trails somewhere. But and people do it. It's a private property, so whether or not the owners are approving of it or not, I can't say. But we've been trying to acquire that parcel because it abuts
Yeah,
town,
it's a great spot.
state
It has
land.
all the criteria that,
Yeah,
pretty much all the criteria that we're looking
Yeah.
for. It really does.
So it would be interesting once we settle on a rating system to look at that parcel and see
Where
does
we rate.
where does it land. But I think the next step for this system, since I think we're at the point to I'd like to just try it out at this point.
I think we should
I
vote
thought
on
we
it.
were gonna do that.
We are, but we were waiting to see.
Do we have to approve it before we try it out, or can we try it out and then?
Well, we could do it either way around, because it's a right.
It's gotta be sort of a
I
living
know, I thought we
document
were
that
gonna try
Yeah,
that
we-
first.
we go with.
Yeah, I feel more comfortable using this as the draft and having a special meeting to focus on
Like a field trip.
a parcel
Okay.
and
I like that.
gather all of our documents ahead of time, do some
Mhm.
homework, meet at the parcel, walk the site,
Yeah.
and then put our heads together and see how well this actually works. And as questions come up, tweak it, adjust it, change the definitions to better suit the reality that's in here. Because
And other state, I mean, when I asked about the state funding, is there any grant money? Is there any monies that I know used to be able, or bonding or anything? And if so, what's their criteria?
so well, I can only speak to the grants that we've looked at and how they. What kind of
I'm
criteria?
so sorry, by the way, if I'm asking stupid new questions. and
No,
being-
we all asked the same questions.
It's good that you ask questions.
I asked
No,
all
we
kinds
had
of
we had a grant. We had a grant for the Nugent property that we were going to acquire.
Right.
There are
Yeah.
grants that
And-
pay for part of it.
And
Yeah.
the grants do call out certain aspects similar to what we're considering in here. For example, abutting existing preserved areas. That's one of the criteria for one of the state grants, and that's in our rating system here. Another is historical and cultural significance. That's included here. So we do cover some of the aspects of things that I've seen in grants that we've applied for. Is that?
And I was just wondering if there was actually like, but each grant has a slightly different.
Yeah, each grant has got a different take on things. For example, the Trails grant might heavily focused on continuing trail networks versus the open space acquisition grant is more interested in just acquiring the parcel and less of making trails for the parcel. Although if there are trails, that rates you higher and the people that review the grant application.
Jason, I have a question about that Nugent property. This is the property we're talking about between Canal Pond.
Yep.
That would link up to Safe property and do we ever think about getting an easement from Mr. Nugent? Should we talk about that or try to contact him?
I think that's the next step. Because this property, we've tried to approach the owners for the last few years. We're that close to submitting a grant twice, but there just could not be an agreement on the price, the purchase price. So I think the fallback position is if they're not ready to let the property go, maybe we go for just an easement so that people can legally walk across the property. And there are deer blinds and stands on that property that have been used in the past. He did give deer hunting permits to people on his property. I'm pretty sure last year he did not. I think he understood our interest and stopped
think he revoked that.
and stopped giving out permits.
Right, process for them, for the hunters.
But yeah, I agree. If we can't work towards acquisition, we should at least work towards permission.
I was speaking to someone from the West Rock Ridge Association, and they were saying that if it's used for a trail or something of that sort, the state will insure it, or so he doesn't have to worry about liability with it. Now, whether that's true or not, but that's what I heard.
Interesting.
Because that's an issue. Usually the
Right.
people worry about liability.
Yeah.
So if it could be connected to the state, West Rock Ridge, somewhere along, it would be covered in that same.
I was, as an aside, I was sitting on my south porch one day, and the road that goes past my house basically starts at the base of 63, goes past through the Sorensen farm, and used to go up to Town Hall. And it was a public way for years back in the 16th century. And so I used to have all the high school teams would run from the high school on the trail, all past me, and Chris gave me permission, I gave him permission. I was sitting out there having a glass of wine with my insurance agent one night, and he goes, "Don't tell me I just saw that."
They all ran by.
Yeah.
It's always an issue. It's always an issue. So if we can let them know that there's not going to be a liability there, that when we approach them,
Yeah.
that would be an important factor.
I'll have to dig up the information that I had about allowing the public on private land. And there is some just general release of liability.
Yeah, there is. I believe there is.
I mean, of course, anybody can sue anyone for any reason. But I think there is a standing law or ordinance that if you're
That's what I'm
allowing the
told.
public on your property, it's at their own risk and they have no strong legal standing to sue you for letting them trespass on your property. Something like that. I'll have to look that up.
Yeah, I'm pretty
Because it always comes up is if someone breaks their leg while they're running across your yard.
Somebody takes off their leg and your lawnmower.
Right. The lawn mowing discussion. So why don't we move forward with this rating system? My thought is to pick something that's been thoroughly studied already, because some of these topics I think we're all going to spend a lot of time learning. For example, the plants and animals aspect, which its criteria talk about federally listed candidate species, globally rare,
Yep.
or habitats of protection. That's all a lot of knowledge that I don't have for sure. But I think if we all put our heads together, we can come pretty close and use the references that we could find through the state deep. UConn has a bunch of resources online, in addition to whatever has been published in the past about whatever parcel we pick. My thought is either Alice Newton Street Park, as an example. I know that's already fully protected, or Fitzgerald, just because those two are well used by the town already. They're well known. I think all of of us have used them in the past, so we're comfortable with what they are. And just to give it a whirl and see what
What we come up with?
we come up with. Is there a preference for one of those two? They're right across the street from each other.
Alice Newton or what?
Or the Fitzgerald?
Oh,
That's
yeah.
Newton Park.
What's included
I
in
like
Fitzgerald?
Alice
Just the
Newton.
circle?
So Fitzgerald is
I mean, the circle and the gardens, is that it?
And the thing behind, right?
it's actually, yeah, there's trails in the
Yeah,
woods, and then there's the open fields.
Then it goes across the street, doesn't it? No, right.
Right.
That is across the street.
Yeah.
We started by the,
Yeah.
we started by the park and then we went across the street. Started.
And if we do pick Alice Newton Street, we could team up with the Parks Association, since they're the conservators of that parcel, and leverage some of their knowledge and experience, and maybe actually educate all of ourselves a bit more.
Good.
That would be good.
Does that sound reasonable?
Yeah.
Sure.
And I can reach-
It's a nice walk.
And I can reach out to them and let them know our intent and interest, and probably get a couple of them brought into
Come
the
along.
conversation as well.
Good.
All right.
Yeah.
Sound good?
Yeah.
We don't need to vote on anything, just
Okay.
consensus on
Good.
moving ahead with that.
Okay.
I'll reach out to them. Cool. All right.
Time frame. What's the time frame on this? When do you think we should?
Well, let me see what their response is. Let me say it's not going to be in the next few weeks. It's probably not before September.
Okay, so we can discuss it at the next meeting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I think at the next meeting, I can report back with what I've found from discussions with the members of the Alice Newton Street Park Association. And at that point, probably have a good roadmap moving ahead on this.
My neighbor happens to be on that association, so I'll ask him.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. And if you know folks on it as well,
About that, yeah.
just let them know. But definitely contact me for questions. I'll be sort of the point of contact for all of it.
It's with the,
Oh,
sorry to
absolutely.
interrupt
No,
you.
I'll have him contact you.
Okay, Alice
State
Newton,
Park?
Alice Newton Street Park.
Street Park.
Association. I think it's association.
Okay.
I think
Thank
the
you.
short name is the Parks Association.
That's why I didn't know it. Okay. That's why.
Cool. All right. Last up is the chairman's report. And I actually have things to report this month. First thing, 31 Enoch Drive. People still wonder what's going on. Leland, are you familiar with that? So this is a parcel on the north end of town. It's, you know where Round Hill is? So it goes from Round Hill down towards the Litchfield Turnpike. It's a big slope of a property. I think it's roughly 8 acres of property. The town purchased it in '99 as open space, but they also bought into a homeowners association when they did that. So there's ongoing homeowners association fees and insurance that has to be paid up. And part of the homeowners association is also to maintain the private road that goes back through there, which was just recently repaved and the town chipped in for that. I don't have the exact figure, but we're not talking tens of thousands. I think it was closer to the town was on the hook for 10,000 of paving or something.
Something like that,
So there was interest from an abutting landowner of purchasing that property because there is a trail that goes through that property, and we've walked it several times. It's very steep grades. There's lots of switchbacks that go down it. And if you were to go from the top of Round Hill down towards the turnpike on the trail, you dead end at the turnpike, and across the street is Water Authority property. So to legally walk on the Water Authority property, you need to pay the $25 a year to have the little badge.
Need a permit?
Yeah, have the permit to walk on Water Authority property. So the Conservation Commission put together an opinion on it, and the gist of the opinion is that if the town was interested in divesting itself of the property, the Conservation Commission would be agreeable provided X, Y, and Z. So that the land be put under a conservation easement, that the trail as it exists be permanently protected with a 50-foot buffer on either side, and that the proceeds from the sale of the property go into the open space fund specifically, so that we could use that money to acquire another parcel of equal or greater importance in town. So we submitted that letter, and there's been discussions with the property owner, but it's sort of just sat on a back burner. There's bigger issues in town.
Wait, so still?
It's still,
Oh, I was waiting for a big finale.
there's no finale.
Oh, okay.
It's that cliffhanger that will never end.
Okay.
This is gonna go on forever.
I think the 50-foot buffer is gonna be the.
Were they gonna have a meeting, a town meeting about, something?
Not this, I don't think.
Free that time?
Well,
Were they talking about that to have?
if the town, if the Board of Selectmen were to move forward with it, it would have to go before a town vote, the town would
Okay.
come out
But
and
it's
vote
not
whether or
necessary
not
if the
to
Board of
sell.
Selectmen
Right.
can get it
So,
done.
just for this,
That was my question.
like, still
Still under discussion.
under discussion.
So
Yeah.
negotiation, is that what it is, the price?
I'm not sure where specifically it's hung up. It's a bit foggy.
So there is a buyer?
There is an interested buyer. The neighboring property owner is interested, and then there's pros and cons. By him acquiring it, it would, in some ways, better protect the trail than it is now. But on the other hand, we're divesting ourselves of property that is open space and it could be built on. And once something goes from public hands into private hands, you lose some control over it. But we've had those discussions overly much without getting
Okay.
without getting into the weeds on this one. Another interesting piece. Lauren connected me with a very eager young man in the high school. He is part of the cross-country team and has very strong interest in maintaining the trails,
Great. We need a trail man.
which is fantastic.
Well, he's a child. Well, he's a 16-year-old. I mean,
Yeah.
child, boy.
So I thought it was a fantastic idea that not only does the cross-country team use the trails, why not have them help out, because they're on the trails more often than some of us, daily in some cases. I think they are. So I responded back to him saying I like the idea, and I'll help you put together a clear proposal about what trails you have in mind, what you'd like to do on the trails, any help and other people that you know that would like to assist with it. And he wrote back a nice thorough breakdown of this trail needs this and this trail needs this and this, and he sort of
Pretty
ordered
good.
them. So I'm going to follow up with him and try to put together a very clear plan for
Right,
what
it's
he
amazing.
the assistance that he might be able to give the town. And I'll invite him here once there's something concrete to present. And we'll also involve the land trust, because the land trust is typically tasked with the maintenance of the trails predominantly. And see where it goes. But I think it's a fantastic.
Sounds good, especially now that Mike
He
Walters
retired?
retired. Yeah.
All right. So that was my last.
After 20 years, I mean, he did that for over 20, and his health.
So that was my last.
Right now.
Yeah, my last news was that Mike Walter did officially retire as our trail
You know,
master.
he was trail master for you know.
Would he be, you think he'd be willing to spend some time with the kid a little, just to,
Maybe.
that might be helpful?
Maybe. So I had hoped to draft a letter before tonight and get everybody to sign it as a thank you to Mike for all of his years of
Yeah,
service.
I think you should do that.
Because he's fully deserving. That guy put in so many hours and so much time to help the trails. So I want to make sure he's well acknowledged and do the right thing and really build on the legacy that he's left for us by getting more involvement. I'm not sure if there's going to be a trail master immediately, but I got a call from the land trust asking if I was still interested in assisting me with trail maintenance, and of course I am. But I think the land trust is trying to reach out and just making sure they have a solid group of people that they can call upon to come out to the trails and help out.
Boy Scouts, do they do it?
Boy Scouts do help.
They do help, but you need a leader.
But you need a leader, and sometimes it's like herding cats with
And,
the
you
scouts.
know,
Can the Conservation Commission give an award?
For
I mean, could we give an annual award to
We could.
volunteer? We could call it the, you know, name it after.
Mike
Right.
Walters,
Yeah.
Trail Master,
That's a nice idea.
Yeah, what do you need? Yeah.
Trail Maintainer of the Year, or Trail Leader or
Recognition.
something.
Yeah.
I like that. That's a good idea.
That's a good idea, we should think about that.
We could come up with something. I like that. Mike would be flattered.
Yeah, it's
He'd be
very
very
nice
shy
idea.
about it too, I think. Yeah, so this all sort of meshes together pretty well with Mike leaving, this young man from the high school seeming very energetic and enthused about, he actually wants to start a club specifically at the high school to maintain the trails. So he's not trying to, get everybody from cross country to do it. You get some cross country runners, and if they've got an ecological club, maybe folks from that would like to come and help. But
They can start their own.
yeah,
Just get a
yeah.
Mhm.
So I think that's part of his interest, is he wants to start a new club at the high school as well. So all good stuff. All good stuff.
Mhm.
I don't have any other chairman report news for anyone.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Yes.
Excellent. Is there a second?
I second
Julie
it.
seconds. Is there any discussion about adjourning?
Okay, that's that.
Let's do it. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Well,
Thank you,
Great.
Jason.
Thank you for your patience.
Great.
No.
Learning curve.
In my email, I said I totally